Welcome everyone, I'm Lobozz, a multi-season challenger ADC, and today I'll be showing you the importance of playing the lane right even when your support ends at level 1 so you can snowball with Varus. I'll be going very in depth into my thought process and I'll be breaking down different options that I had and explain which one is the best. Let me know what you think in the comments, now let's get started.
It's important to note how we should be playing this lane. When we play against double poke such as Soraka Ezreal, it is ideal for the Varus and Thresh to look for all-ins and not try to match their poke, but instead stay very healthy. The first thing to note in this lane is the jungle pathing. We see that Kindred is on the bot side of the map and looking for the bot scuttle here. We know that the bot lane did not leash, so we know the enemy is most likely starting at red and either pathing to bot scuttle or pathing into our Kindred's top side. With that said, we have to make sure that we are all on the same page. In this next couple of seconds, the Thresh looks for an all-in while our Kindred looks for the bot scuttle. If we had instead backed off and let our Kindred get the bot scuttle, we would have been able to have complete pressure after level 2 and look to flash all-in on the Soraka. As the ADC, when your support does something non-ideal such as all-inning at a bad time, it's best to just try to do as much DPS as possible while keeping yourself safe. While my Thresh eventually falls, I'm able to keep myself safe and somewhat chunk out the Soraka. The Kindred then comes in for the late gank, and eventually oversteps. At this point, I have a decision to make. I can either dedicate my flash to hit the Soraka that I know is inside this bush, which I do, or I can decide to keep my flash and be selfish. The reason why I use my flash here is to give my Kindred the kill. The reason why she needs this kill here is the enemy jungler is most likely going to path into her topside and take all of her topside camps after she dies here. At this point, if this Kindred does not get the kill, she's going to be put extremely far behind and not able to help any of the lanes, while me using my flash doesn't do too much. At this point in the game, I also have another decision to make. This Ezreal wants to push the wave in, and I can either 1. Instantly recall, 2. Try to freeze the wave, or 3. Try to stand around and soak as much XP as possible without getting any damage. As the Ezreal overextends and tries to bully me too much, I see that I'm able to just freeze the wave. I stay inside of XP range and out of Ezreal's attack range. I do this so that I miss no minions and am able to keep up in XP while keeping my HP up. As my Thresh walks back into the lane, I'm able to step up and start last hitting. It is important to note when enemies are being too aggressive. For example, this Ezreal is extremely far up in the lane without his Soraka, trying to zone us off. I know that if he ever uses an E aggressively, we can look to go in aggressively as return. As the Ezreal uses E, I ping my Thresh to go in, as he flays and we get a free kill on the Ezreal with shutdown and red buff. Because we capitalized on the enemy mistake, I now have full control of the lane, and I have a couple of options. After I hard shove the wave, I realize that the Ezreal took teleport as his summoner spell, so I need to back off and get my reset instantly. In other games where the enemy ADC does not take teleport, you are able to crash another wave and maybe take a possible turret plating, therefore pushing your lead even further. But because of the teleport from the Ezreal, I need to back off and buy immediately. And we see now, looking at the gold, it seems pretty even as he's come back with Sheen and his 2 kills. But I came back with a shutdown, so now I have lifesteal and a longsword. This allows me to trade more evenly, even though they have Soraka sustain. It is also important to note that due to the Kindred pathing, she is once again back on the bot side. My goal here should be to freeze a defensive wave and allow my Kindred to come and gank. Now that I see that Thresh and Kindred want to run around the try, I can use myself as bait to lure the enemy team into this gank. I can step up and take some harass and force the Ezreal and Soraka to go aggressive on me, and as long as I do not die, one of them is guaranteed to die to the gank. It is important to note that if you die here while trying to do this, it is extremely bad as they can turn the 2v2 afterwards. As I step up and force the Ezreal to be aggressive on me, but stay alive, the Soraka retreats straight into the gank and eventually falls. This is very good as my Kindred is able to get another stack and allows her to snowball even faster. And due to how the Ezreal pathed, my teammates are able to clean up the kill. At this point, you should hard shove the wave and look to deny the Ezreal as much farm as possible. You should also look to get plates on yourself. A quick note about turret plating. In bot lane especially, if you're able to get pressure of the lane, it is extremely easy to get multiple plates in one laning phase. And each plate gives 160 gold to you and your allies. If it's just you and your support there, that's 80 gold per plate extra. If you're able to get 5 plates, that's 400 extra gold for you as an individual and for your support as an individual. As we come resetting from lane again, it's important to always look at your items once again. I see that the Ezreal has only been able to acquire a tier, as I have been able to acquire my full cutlass and extra attack speed. Because of this, I know I have a lot more damage over the Ezreal and a lot more all-in potential. The Ezreal can poke me, but I'm able to sustain with my lifesteal from cutlass. But I'm also able to just all-in. It's also important to notice who you should be focusing in these fights if you want to snowball. My main goal here is to keep Ezreal zoned away from the rest of his team as we initiate on the Soraka and the Rex side. We do this because we want to help our TF, but also we want to zone out the Ezreal from the fight. If the Ezreal is hitting the full HP Thresh or me, that's a-okay. All we are focusing on is killing these two isolated members as we have Kindred coming above. As they eventually get out, now is the time to turn on the Ezreal who's overextending. The next play is to make sure we play with the team as the AD carry. It's extremely important to always want to play with the team and output as much DPS as possible. At this point, I see my Thresh wants to look aggressive onto the Rek'Sai. And after he connects the hook, it's my job to finish off the kill. It's very important to just DPS whoever is in front and whoever your team is focusing. You do not want to be isolated as the ADC, as if you are isolated, then there is a high possibility of you dying. Such as that Ezreal right there. Once again, because the Ezreal dies, we should look to hard push the wave and get more turret plating. The whole goal when putting yourself ahead is to look for more plates and rotate fast into enemy lanes to get even more plates and snowball yourself heavily. Because of the Ezreal death, we're able to collect 2 more plates and back off. As we once again look at item difference, we see that I have my completed blade and Ezreal has gotten nothing more than a coal. Now he's not even able to walk up in the lane, and I can bait him into any sort of all-in whenever I feel like it. With Varus' kit, I can look to just instantly R the Ezreal and 100-0 him with my gold lead. So I should be looking to play extremely aggressive now, especially with seeing with my Kindred is in the bot side. I'm able to look for basically any engage that I want, even if it's 1v2. It is important to note that we see the Rek'Sai on the top side, ganking our top laner, so I feel very positive in this. As the Ezreal uses E, I realize I can R him and kill him easily. I even waste heal here, just to make sure that I stay alive, but heal was definitely not needed. Just due to the raw power I have over this Ezreal, I can play as aggressive as I want. Our next goal here is to finish the turret plating and rotate to other lanes to get more turret plates. As we rotate into mid lane, our TF gets picked and our support does not make an ideal play. At this point, we should just look to push the wave and look for more plates. We do not want to chase anything because Akali has her Shroud, which makes it extremely hard to pick up kills on, and Soraka is safe under her turret, and we have not reset for a while. We want to make sure that we're able to get as many plates as possible, but we also want to make sure that we keep ourselves safe. I see my team is fighting up above, and I look to rotate over to them to try to save anyone that I can. It is important to note that instead of chasing the Soraka or the Akali, I look to peel back onto my Thresh here. This is because the Nasus is above half HP inside Kindred ulti, so if we do not work fast, the Thresh will possibly die. So it is the right move to turn back and try to peel my support. At this point I make a mistake. Instead of walking into the enemy jungle, I should instead instantly walk back to mid with my support and get even more turret plating. Instead, I walk into the enemy jungle, get a ward, and kind of just greed for the kill that I want on the Soraka. I eventually do find her, but this is just poor pathing from the Soraka, and all I get from her is a heal. In the end, it would have been a lot more efficient for me to go and get more plates in mid lane, as I would have been able to get plates, reset, and walk top lane. I begin my recall, but then Akali pops up on the minimap, and due to the prior knowledge of where Rek'Sai was, I am able to walk up and take even more plates topside safely, especially after the Kindred kills the Ezreal. It is always a good idea to count heads on the minimap when you're looking to make plays, especially at low HP. What I mean by counting heads is keeping track of the icons of who is where. Now that we see Akali as topside, it is a good idea to get my reset off right here, unless the enemy team does something aggressive. This is a key part of the game where I'm able to abuse an enemy's over-aggression and my Thresh is able to turn it into something positive. I want to get my reset off here, but the Akali walks straight into a hook, and I see this as an opportunity to snowball the game even further. While I have not gotten my reset off recently, I know that if I'm able to turn a kill here, we can rotate our entire team into the top side of the map and take even more turret plating. I begin to collapse on the Akali because I know I have the Kindred, and she makes a dumb play and goes extremely aggressive for no reason. While she eventually gets out, she eventually gets TF ulted upon and dies. I know that my team will clean up these kills, so my job is to crash this wave in as much as I can to prep for the top play on the turret plating. I must be safe because I have not reset. Even though I'm stronger than the Ezreal, I am not that much stronger due to not resetting recently. As my team picks up the kill on the Akali, I begin to try to crash the next wave. It is important to note that instead of rotating top, my team decided to go for the mid platings, which is also a-okay. While I could reset here, I want to keep my foot on the gas and just try to snowball this game as much as possible, as I am very far ahead of the Ezreal already and I can still pick fights. I see that Rek'Sai is sitting up here waiting for the gank. I can use myself as bait and use their over-aggression to pick up a couple more clean kills into even more turret plating. It is important to note my positioning while waiting here. Now that I know that Rek'Sai is sitting in the fog of war right around the corner over here, I cannot walk up and be aggressive on the Ezreal, but instead I need to push the wave from a very defensive position and wait for my Thresh to arrive. Now that Thresh has arrived, I feel confident in walking up, and we see that Rek'Sai walks away, so I flash engage onto the Ezreal, who's overextended, and look to get more turret plating. As a quick tip for those who don't know, you can flash ulti on Varus to catch your enemy by surprise. Here I see that Ezreal wants to overextend after I see Rek'Sai leave, so it's my go-to to R-flash. When I R-flash, I'm able to catch him by surprise, and he's not able to react in time. It's a very free kill, because my Thresh can chain the CC in. It is important to note that now I just push the waves for even more turret plating. At this point in the game, due to the turret plating we have received bot lane, the turret plating my mid and jungle have received mid lane, and the turret plating that I am now going to get top lane, we have snowballed this game extremely out of control. Our team has gotten 15 plates, a Rift Herald, and the ability to step into the enemy jungle whenever we feel like it, because our gold lead is so massive. This gold lead came from bot lane rotating from turret to turret and allowing mid and jungle to make plays off of our pressure. When you're able to get a lead in bot lane, it is extremely important to try and snowball it into other lanes, as it allows your team to have pressure in other parts of the game. Now as I base, it is important to note where I should be assigning myself in lane. Now that we have all of the outer turrets down, it's important that Dragon and Inners are the next play. You always want to make sure that you're thinking about where you should be as an AD carry. Because I am Varus, a non-mobile ADC, it's always ideal for me to be in a lane where a lot of people will be around to back me up. In this case, mid lane is the ideal choice, as being in a side lane would not be ideal versus Akali, who can assassinate me. As I step up and look to aggressively push mid lane, I see that Akali and Ezreal are on the top side, dealing with the Rumble, and Nasus is getting ganked by my Kindred and TF. I do not have to make a play here. My only play should be to walk up and hit tower. If someone comes onto me, I can look to kill them, but I do not need to make an aggressive play myself, as my team is making something happen in the bot lane. I begin to hit mid tower, and I always am glancing at the minimap to see where people have gone. I see that Ezreal has disappeared, the Nasus has flashed away from the gank, and Rumble is rotating towards mid. I also see that my Thresh support is walking directly towards me, so if anyone comes to me, I can look to turn on them, knowing that I have a Thresh Lantern for safety. As the Rek'Sai appears, I glance at my minimap to see how close my Thresh has gotten to me. My Thresh is close enough that if I begin the fight, he'll eventually be able to get into Lantern range and save me, so I look to take the fight onto Rek'Sai. As we kill the Rek'Sai, it is important to note that we should be looking for an aggressive play on turrets. I rotate into my bot side because we have a strong bot side with the Kindred and TF here. As Rumble TPs into mid, I now know that I can play extremely aggressive and look for even more turrets. As Kindred starts to summon the Rift Herald, I know that I can look for an inhib turret here, and I should be lifestealing off the wave to make sure I am very healthy. It is important to note why I die here and how I could have played it better. In this next upcoming fight, I play way too aggressive and allow the Akali to dive onto me. With such low HP, it is ideal for me to stay extremely far back and wait for the Akali, the assassin, to use her spells on someone else. But I step up to try to snipe the Ezreal, and it allows Akali to walk towards me. While it's not ideal to die here, we know it's okay because we see Rumble is hitting mid turret. And as Rumble chips away at this mid tower, we know that once he gets this tower, inhibs will be open and we're able to snowball the game even more out of control. Ideally, the Rumble stays and finishes the tower, but he looks for a solo play, which is also okay. As we're walking back from base, it is important to know what our next plan should be. As bot inhib has fallen, we need to rotate into the top side and look to get the last top inner turret into top inhib if possible. It is also important to note that my team has recalled, so my goal as the AD carry is to continuously farm for myself, but also keep myself safe. I look to go into the enemy raptors as it's a safe way to get more gold while being safe away from the enemy team. Now that our team has grouped, I can look to stay with the team and crash waves into towers and look to just end the game in the next couple minutes here. As we take this tower, it is important to note who's flanking from what angles. We see Akali down on the bot side farming, Ezreal up at the inhib, and Rek'Sai trying to flank us. Right here, it is a good idea to try to turn on the Rek'Sai with my Varus ultimate and look to pick him off before he can flank us. I sadly missed my ultimate, which is okay because I'm still looking for the play and I'm applying pressure from the Rek'Sai. Even though I missed my ultimate, the Rek'Sai is now not able to flank because he's been scared off. Note that without my Varus ultimate, I need to play very passive until my team looks to engage for me. I play extremely far back, waiting for my team. As my team disengages, I know I need to take a safe pathing into topside and look to get that top turret. As the enemy team FFs, we win the game. Ideally here, we would have been able to push the top turret into top inhib and then have triple inhib down, and the game would be essentially over. The things we should recognize from this video are how to snowball turret plate gold into mid-game advantage, how to abuse enemy mistakes, and how to react when your team does not make the most ideal plays early game. It is important to note that when your support makes a mistake like this, and all-ins thinking the jungler will come, that you need to keep yourself as safe as possible no matter what. I attack the minion to get myself level 2 and wait for my Kindred to come. Ideally, my Kindred should just kill the first target, this Ezreal, but instead flashes onto the Soraka and starts getting DPS for free. At this point, like I talked before, I can either look to flash onto the Soraka and make sure that my Kindred actually gets the kill, or I can step back and let the Kindred die by herself. More importantly, for abusing enemy mistakes, it is important to note what the Ezreal wants to do here. As the Ezreal wants to crash turret and get the wave into his turret, he also looks to play aggressive onto me. I know that since he has no E, I can look to soak XP on the wave while not getting poked. It is important for me not to get poked as I am low HP and waiting for my support to arrive. At this point in the lane, we need to recognize a couple of things. The Ezreal is very low on mana, and if he E's aggressively, he won't be able to use his E again. Also, we know that the Soraka was late on reset, so won't be arriving for a couple more seconds after he uses E here. As the AD carry though, most of the time, you are not the engaged tool early game. As the Ezreal uses his E aggressively here, it is up to my support to make the play. As my support recognizes that the Ezreal is far too up, he's able to land the play, and now the play is on, and now it is my job to take over the play and make sure that the Ezreal dies. That is everything I wanted to go over for this guide, and I hope that this is helpful and you now understand how to use turret platings to snowball the game into mid game.